Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Marathon Night, where we take a older series, and because they are longer in length in terms of episodes, we take them in marathon fashion with multiple episodes and give you guys our thoughts. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drak. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. And joining me, as always, is my lovely wife, Andrea. Andrea, are you feeling the need for some more blading? Are you feeling the need to let it rip?
Sure.
Hopefully not to rip me apart. Okay, well, cool. And I probably put in a clip somewhere in there. But we're here to talk more Beyblade Season 1. And in fact, we are here to wrap up the U.S. tournament. So with that being said, it's actually been a while since we watched these episodes. I had to do a refresher course, and thankfully Andrea remembered a lot of it. So thankfully I'm back up to speed. But these 4 episodes basically wrap up the U.S. tournament, and we'll give our thoughts on that as we go along. But let's go ahead and get started with episode 25, My Way or the Highway. Sorry, editor Drak, why did you put a Fred Durst song in there? No, I'm not going to apologize for that. So this is the Blade Breakers in the semifinals of the American tournament, and they're going to be going up against the team known as Spintensity. I actually like the name. It doesn't really have a theme to it, but the team name is actually pretty good. So Spintensity is the team that, if people remember from the charity match, this is the team that Mario belonged to. And so it's going to be a 3-on-3, and everything is looking good and ready to go, except for Tyson, who, quote, ate too much and is now basically a zombie? I can't tell what they're actually trying to do here. Did he get food poisoning, or did he get massive heartburn? Either way, he lost like 50 pounds. And I'm guessing most of it through his butt. But yeah, what did you think of Zombie Tyson? Good lord, he actually almost looks like Bones from Yu-Gi-Oh!
Not surprised there after he ate so much at the buffet.
Yeah, this is the trope of like most protagonists in shonen anime, is that they all have basically black hole stomachs, and so they will eat, like, if a free food buffet is announced, then they'll eat their share, kind of thing. Unless you're Goku, then you'll eat the restaurant into bankruptcy, is basically what'll happen. But because of that, they decide that Tyson is not fit for competition, and immediately decide, okay, he's out. He's going to spend most of the day in the bathroom, to which we go to the first round, which is up against Luis, and this is the one that Max takes on, right? So this is the Samba dancer. Yes. This guy has a very unique Beyblade in the fact that because he is a Samba dancer, who I'm very suspicious might have been a woman in the Japanese version, just because of the way he's drawn. His Beyblade apparently can follow the beat that he dances to, and thus can actually create a kind of a swerve and dive kind of strategy with it. I don't know. That's the best way I know how to describe it, is like once he starts dancing, his top will his Beyblade will dance with him too. And I should point out that they are also in a unique stadium in the fact that it's supposed to resemble the New Jersey Turnpike. I don't know why. And it's just as winding as anybody might think it is. But ultimately, Max does pull it out and win against Luis. Not really too much to take in there, because as soon as Max figures out the gimmick, he basically plans around it and uses Drasil to end the match. And I don't even think he had a Bit Beast, did he?
No.
Nah, Luis didn't. His whole gimmick was the dancing. To which, at that point, we moved. So that's one for the Blade Breakers. The second match that we have is... Oh, what's her name? I remember his name. Frankie. So it's Frankie, the female member of the team, up against Ray. And hers, I believe, did have a bit beast. Or no, it didn't have a bit beast, but it had a unique attack. So Frankie basically is like a fisherman kind of thing. And she basically created a piranha attack where her Beyblade would create copies of itself and then all try to attack Drigger at once. Which makes for a very interesting bout because you basically get to see Drigger take out numerous little piranha attacks at once. And it actually looks like both Frankie and Ray do have a fun time when they're during this match.
Especially when you see them all like going down the highways.
Yeah, because again, this was a weird arena choice. But strangely enough, for these battles, it kind of worked. But it's just like, why would you base this on the New Jersey Turnpike of all things? That makes as much sense as like so in case you guys don't, if you're brand spanking new, we're from Utah, and in close to downtown Salt Lake City, there is what we like to call the Spaghetti Bowl, which is basically a bunch of roads, kind of like the New Jersey Turnpike, that are all together. That's how much sense that makes. Is like you make a base stadium based off of like a place where traffic jams happen all the time. So at that point, Ray does win in the end, and it looks like Frankie and Ray have earned respect for one another. But then we get to see Mario, and this is where Tyson wanted to try and get in for one of the bouts, but then has to run back to the bathroom. So Kai decides to take on Mario, and I don't think this was a very one-sided. If I'm right, this was a very one-sided Beyblade match where Dronzer just kind of kicks the crap out of Mario.
Pretty much.
So, because I don't remember it lasting very long.
No.
So at that point, the Spentensity team is taken on, and it is official. The finals of the American tournament will be the Blade Breakers taking on the All-Stars. Who would have ever guessed? And that's where the episode basically ends. So, Andrea, what did this episode do right? And then we'll get into what it did wrong. So, what is a positive of this episode?
It was just still just a semifinal matchup. So not.
I'm a little disappointed at Spentensity because I like up until this point, a lot of the teams that we've been seeing have had very strict themes to them. And this one doesn't really. Apparently, this team is supposed to be from, like, I'm looking up the wiki for it because I couldn't remember them. According to the wiki, they were supposed to be from Brazil. And so at that point, that's why you have the samba dancer, you have the fisherwoman, and you have the soccer kid, because those are all staples of Brazil. But unfortunately, compared to some of the other teams, it's not as cohesive. And so it's kind of a weird makeup of the three of them, but like that's more nitpicking than anything else. I didn't hate any of these characters, although again, I do suspect that if we went to go see the Japanese version of Beyblade, would Luis be Louisa, because of the way that Luis was animated. It really does look in some cases where they basically edited boobs out. I'm just going to say right now, but that's me. I do like this matchup, and I know this sounds mean, but I kind of like that Tyson wasn't involved. And they gave a legitimate reason. His stomach got the better of him, and so now he has to deal with that. And I also like the fact that the other team members, Kenny and Kai included, were giving him crap about his all-you-can-eat buffet the previous night. So I did like that, but it did let some of the other some of the other team members shine, even though Kai got like 10 seconds. Seriously, when are we going to get a match that's actually a match for Kai?
Well, probably the next tournament.
I don't know. I don't remember enough about this. So is there anything this episode did wrong? My complaint is just the lack of cohesion between the team members. I get it. They represent Brazil, but then, we had one that was like one that could have been straight out of a Western. And the All-Stars obviously have the sport ball theme.
It just kind of feel weird that you have those team members that, man, are they actually a team or are they just just three random people just grouped?
It might have been cool to have Max face off against Mario. I would say that, but then Samba Boy would have been trounced by Kai.
That's true, because...
And I don't think Mario's Beyblade had any kind of major kick to it.
That probably would have been better if Max faced against Mario, since they were...
It would have made sense from the charity match.
Yeah.
But no, instead he got trounced by Kai. But at least the other two matches were fairly entertaining. Out of 5, what would we give My Way or the Highway?
Probably just a 3.
Yeah, right down the middle. I have no problem saying that. So then we get into episode 26, which is Catch a Shooting All-Star. This one is an interesting one because it created a little bit of a conflict for me. So this is the night before the Blade Breakers. I was about to do it again. The Braid Blakers are going to be facing the All-Stars, and Kenny is making an argument that the team setup that needs to happen is Tyson, Ray, and Kai. Obviously, this is not what should happen because a lot of the U.S. tournament has had an emphasis on Max, and Max is very upset about this because he wants to be part of the team because it's his mom and he wants to be able to prove himself and all that stuff. And so he storms off and then goes to the roof to cool off, but it just so happens that his mom is there. And they get to have a little bit of a touching moment where they try to make, what was her name? Judy?
Judy, yes. They
try to make Judy out to be more of a motherly figure. Doesn't work. And ultimately, Max has to kind of stand his ground. She actually makes the argument that he shouldn't be on that team either, because she could, as his mother, she couldn't stand to see him beaten. Right. You had no problem watching him get beat in the BBA. So, yeah. But thankfully, Max stands up to her and says, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be facing off against the All-Stars. And however it goes is however it goes. But I'm going in to win. And I like that moment, actually, for him to stand up to his mom and say, look, I'm not holding back just because it's your team. I'm going to do my best. And I have my own group of friends. And I'm there to support them. So I kind of like that moment, but that's pretty much the major things that happened in this episode, aside from the start up of the finals. But we'll address that, I think, in the next episode. This took up a lot of it. So what do you think this episode did right, Andrea? Because this is the primary moment here is Max confronting his mom. Do you think that was the right thing to do? Do you think it was the wrong thing to do?
Well, I think he had to eventually just tell her, this is how things are.
He basically had to put his foot down, especially considering how he was at the BBA, where he's like, Mom, I don't understand why you're doing this, Mom.
Yeah, but that got kind of annoying when...
It did, but I like the fact that they actually said, oh yeah, he's got character now. Would we say that there was anything wrong with this? I would say it was initially wrong that Kenny even remotely considered taking Max off on this one. And I know, like, I was criticizing the makeup for the last one too, but that was primarily because it was Ray that needed to be facing off against Lee, and ultimately we got that.
True.
And Kai didn't even face off in that match at all. So at that point, I liked how the standing up happened. I just thought it was a really dumb idea that that Kenny was basically pushing it. I think Kai was pushing it too, but then eventually just said, "Okay, you can go ahead and prove yourself," kind of deal. But yeah, Kenny was very much in the wrong. I think that's the only thing that the episode did wrong in that is they kind of created a non-starter in order to get Max up on that roof.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 5, what would we give catching a shooting all-star?
I'd probably give it a 3 as well.
All right. And the reason I kept the other portion of this is because this, like, we have that tense confrontation, but we actually do start up the finals in this one, but it's finished in episode 27, The Battle of America. And I'm sorry, but in my head, I immediately hear Bandit Keith going, "In America!" So the first round of the Blade Breakers versus the All-Stars is Tyson versus Steve. How do we feel about that matchup? Considering that Tyson's supposed to be the main character, logically that would say, okay, Tyson has to face off against Michael. But instead, they just let Tyson handle the first round. Did that disappoint you at all?
No. Yeah, I mean, you were going to expect maybe Max to finish it up since it was his story arc, really.
Right.
So they're...
Yeah, I wasn't really disappointed in this because if you look at it logically, like, Kai wasn't going to get involved because obviously it's Kai. And Ray was not going to win against Steve because that was just going to be power against power. And already Steve kind of won that fight. So it kind of had to be Tyson because Tyson's the only one that could throw a left hook in for Steve. And the match that we actually get to see them have is I think it's supposed to be based off of like Times Square, but it's actually like got buildings and landmarks of various cities kind of thing, but it's supposed to resemble Times Square. And so we have kind of this urban warfare arena where Tyson and Steve go head to head, and their first match actually goes, I think, in Tyson's favor, didn't it?
It goes in Tyson's because Steve
he actually plays the smarter game and plays to Steve's weaknesses, I think.
Well, Steve kind of pretty much let Tyson win the first round.
That's right. He held back quite a bit. That's right.
Because then by the second round, he's like, "Can I not?"
Yeah. So round 2 is when the gloves get taken off, and he trounces Tyson.
I think so. Yeah.
Just to kind of show Tyson that they are not in the same league. And the third match is really where it gets interesting because now it becomes that we have to outsmart the other. Which is actually interesting because we get a little bit of backstory on Steve. Apparently he's got a bit of a temper, and that actually got him kicked out of football. And that's why he went into Beyblading, is because they would let him, they wouldn't hold him back. And it's basically Tyson's plan that he uses that unchecked aggression against Steve, to the point where he basically just takes what was it? There was an earpiece in his ear under the football helmet, and he just takes it all off, and he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna finish this." And that's when Tyson pulls out the Phantom Hurricane, which is really the only thing that could have gotten Steve's bison bit beast off of its feet.
Yeah.
So. But it does actually end up in a kind of a psychological warfare deal because Tyson basically plays to Steve's weakness, which is his temper. And it actually ended up being a really nice fight between the two of them. Is it better than the match between him and Lee in the previous tournament? I'd say it's on par because Lee's had that weird gimmick of being out in the middle of a desert. And so at that point, that kind of changed things up quite a bit. So I can't necessarily say it's better or worse than against Steve. It's just Tyson has a very, very different battle plan compared to Steve. So I kind of like that one. But the Blade Breakers do take away the first win. So that wraps up that does not wrap up the episode because the second match happened in this one too, didn't it?
Something like
I believe. So, yeah, we have one up, and Eddie, because I keep forgetting his name, Eddie, the NBA player, or the basketball player, goes up against Ray. And this is the one we hadn't seen yet. And man, was his Beyblade weird, but his Bit Beast was freaking amazing. So we get a sneak peek with the All-Stars on all of their Bit Beasts before the matches even start. And this is where we got to see Eddie's Bit Beast for the first time, which is a Scorpion.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because we had the Bison, we had the Scorpion, and then we had the Eagle for Michael. And he pulls out his Beyblade, which obviously we kind of guessed this, is he dribbled his or he slam dunked his basketball and that let it go. But dude, that Beyblade was so weird. It was basically like a helicopter. It was huge. In order to resemble like his basketball dominance, because he was kind of a tall kid. So at that point, like, it had really long blades, so it was very difficult to get in there. And I mean, compared to the previous match, this one was very short, as Eddie trounces Ray and Drigger. All he has to do is get one strike in, which was supposed to be a poison strike because of his Scorpion Bit Beast, and that ends Drigger. So at that point, done, which is kind of disappointing, but at the same time, I'm not that disappointed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's too bad.
Because his Beyblade is kind of cool, and therefore, and it just kind of makes me want to see him later.
Yeah, it's just too bad Ray didn't at least win one, but he could have won two, you know?
Yeah, but the reality is somebody had to lose.
That's true.
And that couldn't be Max in this, and it really couldn't be Tyson either.
But still.
Ray, but it does suck that Ray is the one that lost.
I mean, it's too bad that, you know, like, Ray didn't at least win 1 out of 3, you know, and he won the other 2 or something.
No, that was the weird part, is like he basically gets just destroyed. So he gets 3-0'd out because of the way the way Eddie's Beyblade works. But I think part of the reason they did that is I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see the All-Stars later. And so at that point, maybe it'll set up for a really cool rematch.
Maybe.
But that's kind of the reason I think that they did that. And that basically puts things at 1 apiece for the matches. And that's how this ends, because it's ultimately decided as the cliffhanger that Max is going to be facing Michael, which is exactly what this should be doing, because this is Max's arc. So we need to have Max going up against Michael to end this match. So episode 27, the battle in America. What did you think of the episode?
I mean, it was a good start off, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to keep in mind that the previous episode had the first match between Steve and Tyson, but things heat up in this episode. And that's like, the positive is we got two very good matchups in it, where Tyson and Steve is actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And Ray and Eddie, even though Ray did get trounced, it still wasn't that bad, because I do think that they've set things up for a rematch later. I don't remember this series that well, so if that doesn't happen, I'll be disappointed, but it is kind of cool, and I would like to see that Scorpion Beyblade again. So, what did this episode do wrong? Probably Ray's trouncing. It would have been cool if he at least put up a fight.
Or at least could have made it a close call, but not quite, but you know.
Yeah, he could have won one of them, but they instead to have him get shut out completely. But in my opinion, that is balanced out by the fact that the third round with Steve and Tyson went the way it did, where Tyson got to show that he isn't just, you know, nothing but raw power. He actually can strategize a little bit. So I don't know. It balances things out. Out of 5, what would you give the battle in America?
I'd probably give it a 4.
Yeah, I'm kind of there. I wouldn't like. I'd say like a 3.5 or a 4, because you do have that weird deal where you are disappointed about the Ray match, but it balances itself out.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather have a close competition. I don't want to have a blowout. Blowouts kind of suck, especially from a writing perspective. So then we get to episode 28, bottom of the ninth, which is the one that I've been waiting for because this is how it has to end. Much like how Ray versus Lee ended in the Asia tournament, the US tournament has to end with Max versus Michael. And it pretty much goes the way that we think it's going to go. So it's Max versus Michael. And we kind of already know Michael's shtick is that he does the fastball and overwhelms his opponent with his Eagle Bit Beast. I'm trying to remember. They all had a gimmick to their Beyblades because they're all artificial. It was like, I want to say it was Ix, like at the end of them, because it was like Scorpix for Eddie, but I can't remember the best Bit Beast name. But obviously, the first match, Michael pulls out a fastball, and by the way, this is where for the second round with Ray, we actually got like a more traditional but very slippery Beyblade Stadium. This one is straight up a baseball diamond. Mm-hmm. So obviously, in Michael's favor, they're basically setting things up that Max is very much in the negative. And first round immediately goes to Michael because he overwhelms Dracil with the fastball. But second round, now that Max has kind of seen what Michael can do, once he hits that fastball pitch this time around, Dracil is actually powered up enough for it and saves enough of its power to throw his Bit Beast off and wins the second round, which actually was kind of cool because they basically did a whole, not judo, but, well, kind of like judo, where you use your enemy's force against them. And considering that Max's Dracil is more of a defensive Beyblade, actually kind of worked because the raw defense obviously wasn't enough. And this is where the third match is more important because this is where Judy is like, okay, we have everything on the line. Michael, switch to your other hand. Apparently, the hand that he's been pitching with so far is not his actual pitching hand. Mm-hmm. So he switches to his other one, which is way more powerful, according to everything that we're being told. And we get to have an actual struggle between Michael and Max. And it looks like it's pretty close for most of it. And ultimately, Max pulls it out, which is amazing to be able to see because, you know, we want Max to win, considering he just stood up to his mom. But we also know the stakes that are involved with Judy, because we knew that if she couldn't prove that the All-Stars could win, the boss man basically said that they weren't gonna be able to continue. Made it sound like she'd get fired, ultimately. But instead, what happens is Judy basically goes to the big boss man, for lack of a better term, and says, you know, like, we've just been using science and technology to make our bladers the best that they can be. Now let's add heart into it, because Max showed tons of heart while doing this match, which is like makes Max the ultimate baby face in this matchup. It was actually really cool. And even then, like, he still kind of tries to cheer up the All-Stars and says, you know, we look forward to facing off against you guys again, which I thought it was nice. And that is basically how it ends, is that the U.S. tournament is won by the Blade Breakers. So this is 2 tournaments in a row. So at that point, what are our overall thoughts on the American tournament? Considering that the previous tournament was more Ray's arc, this is more Max's arc. Do we feel like this is as good as what Ray got, or worse?
Like, what do you mean by...
Like, do we like what happened with Max's arc, or do we think that it wasn't as good?
No, I thought it was pretty good, just because...
Compared to Ray's arc, I'd say it's on par. And it's primarily because the struggles are very much different, where it's like former teammates versus new teammates. This is putting family, or basically kind of redefining family, because yes, it's his mom on the opposing team, but he's learned friendship in the heart of the cards, and the Blade Breakers are his true family, kind of thing. So I really did like that aspect of it, and
yeah,
it's hard to say that it's better than the Asian tournament, because they both had their perks for their existing characters. What did this episode do right, Andrea? I think it set up Michael the way that it needed to. You know, like, we already knew that he was kind of a one-hit wonder and very powerful, but it also kind of showed that as his Achilles heel, is that all he's got is that fastball. And made it very clear to Max, even though, like, after, like, the first round, he's sitting there going, I don't know if I can beat this power, but then, you know, basically grits his teeth and gets through the rest of the rounds. So I liked it.
Yeah, well, and it was nice seeing Kai, like, you know, just kind of telling Max, you know, you gotta just go for it, you know, because Max was having some
I forgot to mention that, but Kai basically comes in and gives a little bit of advice to Max and tries to get him to just not worry about the future, just live in the moment, just grit your teeth and bear it.
Yeah, because Max was kind of having second thoughts about even competing because he knew.
Right, even though he had confronted his mom, which, again, just shows that Max has a lot of heart. And so at that point, it's really nice to be able to see that. Do we think this matchup did anything wrong?
No.
Not really, because if anything, they more emphasized that if you could say that the All-Stars Achilles heel is their reliance on technology, then Michael was the worst of them, because he had one hit to him, and that was given to him by the numbers and the science and all that. And once he had it, he had nothing else, kind of thing. So he's kind of the real representation of, like, you can't just use science, because then you get somebody like Michael. Whereas with Steve, you know, they actually showed that he had another Achilles heel, which was his temper. So I think they did it the way they needed to. I don't think that there's necessarily a negative here. Maybe just the fact that he kind of doubted himself initially, but you know what? He was the babyface, so I'm okay with it. Kind of deal. I love using wrestling terminology, and then Andrea just kind of sits there and goes, "What?"
Not to mention, it's like you were just getting all upset because you were being taken off the team matchups for
right
at the beginning, and now you're,
which again was a bad decision, because, like, yes, you could have put Kai in there, but Kai has been, like, the problem is Kai's track record isn't great right now. So yeah, he trounces people, but he's also very fickle on whether or not he wants to get involved. So it didn't just make sense from a story perspective, it also just didn't make sense from a logic perspective. You're going to rely on the one guy that is just decided when he wants to compete? Yeah, no. Some team captain you are, Kai.
Oh yeah, and besides, it'd be interesting on how long, you know, one of those players would have eventually lasted, you know.
And ultimately, the one thing that I will also say as a positive here is that this is the first time where I kind of got an indication where we might see the All-Stars again. I didn't really get that with the White Tigers. I do think we'll see them again, but I never got that kind of feeling. I more got the feeling of, like, they're going to go back to their village and they're going to go, you know, do their thing, and Ray will go to visit. This is where they basically kind of said, you know, we'd like to see you again for the next matchup. And you kind of get that setup with Michael and Max, but mostly with Ray and Eddie, because we kind of want to see that matchup again. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So episode 28, bottom of the ninth. What would we give out of 5? 4.5. 4.5. They made some missteps. I really didn't care if Judy got fired. I really didn't, because this thing has gone out of its way to say, hey, look, she's a mom. I'm like, nope. You already established she's not mom. She's not mom material. So I wasn't on board with that. But and there were some missteps in the fact that, like, oh, you know, she didn't get fired. Oh, but now she's learned the heart of the cards, and now they'll start putting heart into their Beyblade attacks. Yeah. I look forward to seeing the next tournament and having the Blade Breakers trounce them again. But yeah, 4.5 for me.
Yeah, same.
Same for you. Okay. And then would we say that, so if we actually had to do it, would we say the American tournament was better than the Asian tournament? I kind of don't think they can be compared. Just because of story reasons as well as logic reasons, because there were just different elements that were going into each of the team makeups. So I don't know if you can compare them, but they were both good. Mm-hmm. I'll say that much. But it does make you ask the question, okay, so where's the next tournament going to be, and who is going to be the feature of that one? And I suspect that if it's going to be anywhere, I mean, you know, you've had the Asian tournament, you've had the US tournament, it's probably Europe is going to be the next one. So at that point, who do we think is going to be the focus for that? Because we have Tyson and we have Kai, unless the series throws us a major left hook and it's a Kenny-focused arc.
I want to say it's going to be Kai.
I kind of wonder because, like, they teased that maybe these the All-Stars Beasts were what Kai was sent to look for, but they ultimately didn't end up being that. As Kai just kind of, like, he gives that initial interest in the BBA episode, but then he goes back to being regular Kai. So I kind of wonder if maybe this is going to be the Kai-based one. And this is, and also Europe, like, if you're going to have, you know, a bunch of Bit Beasts that maybe have been around for a while that haven't been taken out, it probably is in Europe. So I kind of agree with you. I mean, is there an inkling that it could be for Tyson?
Well,
I kind of don't think so, because I'm starting to think the Japanese tournament was more Tyson's thing.
Well, I think Tyson was more for the beginning, but that doesn't mean he'll have some more character development, but not as heavily
I wouldn't be surprised if we got an arc later to help him kind of establish being the captain of the Blade Breakers. The Bade Breakers. I will never be able to say it properly, because, I mean, ultimately, that's the thing I know from the next series. I think it's called G Revolution, that he's really the leader of the Blade Breakers. So at that point, maybe that would be the arc to kind of put him in that captain's role, because obviously Kai ain't the guy.
Well, because depending on if there are any more tournaments after the next one they're going through, where are you going to get one for Kai, you know?
This is true.
So,
I mean, like, where else would you do it? I mean, are you going to throw us like an African tournament and that's where Kai gets it? I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense.
I would see it more for Kai than I would see it for, like, Kenny, you know?
Well, plus, if they were gonna do like an African tournament, I'd actually say, like, Tyson needs to be the guy, because then at that point it needs to be like, oh, okay, you know, like, these people are all like me and I want to show the love of Beyblading kind of thing. I mean, you could do that for the Europe one because everybody could be like Kai, but yeah, I'm with you. I think it needs to be Kai for the European tournament. So at that point, we'll see what happens when we tackle episodes 29 through 32. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're brand spanking new, make sure to leave a like and leave your comments down below if you had disagreements with what we said. If you think I'm being too hard on Max's mom, which you're more than welcome to make the complaint, I'm still going to disagree with you. You could also, if you're brand spanking new, leave a like and consider subscribing. It helps out with all of the YouTube algorithms and such. And you can also leave suggestions for series that you would like us to be able to take on, and we'll add it to the list and see if we can make it work. But if you're listening via podcast format, you can continue to listen to us on either Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Player.fm, and of course Spotify. And until then, and until next time, we will see you guys next time for more of Geek News Marathon Night and Season 1 of Beyblade. And oh my gosh, Andrea, we are halfway through this season. Feels good, doesn't it? Feels real good. Almost like you want to...